Good afternoon and welcome back to Gulfstream Park. Thank you once again for joining us here on Gulfstream today on this Wednesday afternoon. I'm Gabby Gaudette, joined by Andy Serling. We've had a couple of days off and probably well needed as we get into a very, very busy week and weekend.
Yeah, very busy week indeed. And we've got 11 races today, tomorrow, and Friday. I think we're running 12 on Saturday and Sunday. The Lamb Home South Holy Bull is leading a card on Saturday that's going to have 5 stake races.
Yeah, Forward Gal, Swedish Chance, the Swale, and the Kitten's Joy. So a lot to look forward to this weekend, but a lot to look forward to this afternoon as well. We are on the turf today, and we do have some nice carryovers to take advantage of. Kind of an interesting way to end the sequence last Sunday.
Yeah, for sure, with Carlo Vaccarezza winning those 2 races and a really improbable long shot in the 10th race especially. Won the race really because of the ride and the second place finisher obviously should have won. But the long shot just winning the last race and is much the best in there, creating the just nosing out, of course, that would have taken down the Rainbow Six. So we've got a carryover there, a substantial carryover, but also that $88,000 carryover in the pick 5 that, unlike the Rainbow Six, is all going to be given away today unless there's no winners.
It will most likely be given away today, and this might be one of the few times that we see a carryover in the late pick 5, so definitely dive in on the action. It's an interesting sequence. I believe you have a ticket, so we'll get to that later on the card, but we'll take a look at our featured carryovers and our wagers as well. Dollar Super High 5 does kick off in race 1. That carryover over $6,000, close to $7,000 in that carryover. Race 1 also does kick off the 50-cent pick 5. As we move along throughout the card, race 6 starts the 20-cent Rainbow pick 6, carryover over $174,000. And in race 7 kicks off the late pick 5, over $88,000 in that carryover as well. And I know a lot of questions we get regarding the early pick 5 and the late pick 5. Obviously, the early pick 5 is paid out even if it is 4 out of 5, and then the late pick 5 carries over to the late pick 5 on the following card.
Right, no carryovers in that early pick 5, and lates will be carryover to each other if they're not hit. They're playing by 2 different sets of rules. That's the way it is, but we have that carryover in the late pick 5, and an interesting and difficult sequence talked about a little bit on Twitter last night, but let's get to work on the cards so that we have time to talk about it when we get there.
Let's take a look at the early pick 5. I believe you have a ticket.
I have a small ticket. You want to save that money for the late pick 5, see what happens here. Unfortunately, the horse that you and I liked in the first, the 8 was scratched. We're left with a 3 and 7. Neither one of us is throw with a 7, but he still looks like a winner. I'm going to take a shot and single a horse in the second race, Levkos Pyrgos, that I like, that I'll be betting on. 2 and 6 in the third, and 3 horses to close it out in the last 2. But once again, betting back to that first race, Gabby, I know we'll start out by taking a look at a replay of a Fleet Honey, the 3 in this race, the horse who's currently favored and may well be favored. And as you can see from the last race, quite an easy winner. But that was a great setup of a very fast pace that collapsed, and you don't know if the horse is going to get that today, though this is a race that does project to have a quick pace, though the 8 coming out diminishes the pace.
It does, and this is a horse who definitely fits here. I probably would have even opted for her over my top selection here because you look at her back races, and yes, it took her a couple times to get her maiden score and was an open length winner last time out. They finally dropped her down to a reasonable class level, and they keep her at that class level here today. So she is what she is. The 7 Hissy Fit is a horse that I unfortunately defaulted in. I liked Constraint, and when she debuted against Maiden Special Weight Company, she went gate to wire, and then following up with that, they tried the turf with her. I just don't know how she kind of figures in the pace sense because I think there might be faster horses in here.
We'll see. She probably is going to be stalking a little bit in here, and we'll see what kind of horse she is. I found an interesting stat for trainer Eplisa. I was thinking this might have been a good move by him, giving the horse a prep on the turf, but in fact, when he's second off a layoff, going turf to dirt and sprints, he's not only 0 for 12, but only 2 of them have hit the board, and 9 of them were short prices. So it's just not a move that's worked for him, and it leads me to believe when he does it, he's doing it because he doesn't think the horse is that good. Now, the 7 could still win this race because she doesn't have to be that good to win.
No, absolutely not. And she is getting a significant class really from what she faced in debut at Monmouth. But with that said, we'll move on to the second race on the card. 6,259 winners, a 2 lifetime claiming event, a mile and a 16th on the main track. And this is a horse that you really like, the 7, Levkos Pyrgos.
Yeah, listen, I'm a sucker for horses off of dead rail trips. And it's funny, in watching another horse, I think on Thursday or Friday's card, this horse came up because the horse who had been the speed in the race it was in sort of faltered favorite in there and dropped well back as a heavy favorite. And Levkos Pyrgos came inside of that horse in the stretch. This horse was right on the rail last time. It didn't run that badly. And I know it's an outside post, a mile and a 16th race, but I'm going to take horses like this, especially in races where I'm not thrilled with anybody.
I could definitely, I respect this horse as well. The only thing is at Gulfstream Park West, you look at the recent form, and he has been going the one-turn mile distances. Now, for the first time in quite a while, he has to get the 2 turns. He should be forwardly placed, so at least he does have that outside post position, and he has enough speed to get into position. So he does make sense. The 2, Popcorn Kitten, is a horse that I use because I do think that this is a horse that needs to be a bit closer to the pace. And at 2 turns, he very well could be in that stalking position. He's just left with too much to do in his past couple of starts, and he doesn't really have one of those inspiring late closing kicks. So I'm hoping that they could get a bit more aggressive with this horse.
We'll see how things work out. I like the 7, but the 1, 2, and 3 seem like all players. The 7 doesn't get it done.
Okay, race 3 on the card, a maiden $16,000 event on the turf at 1 mile. And this was an interesting race as well. I don't believe we have anything to show, but Make the Rider Armicio El Jaramillo on the 1, Romantic Forever. You land on the 2, Madu.
Yeah, taking a horse that's taking a significant class drop that's run against much, much better horses. Obviously, I don't particularly like the last performance by this horse, but a race 2 races back in October at Gulfstream would beat these horses. I didn't find anybody here that was particularly compelling. Hanover Honey seemed like the logical horse, the one you have on top, but she's had her chances. I'll just take the 2, Madu, on the drop down.
Yeah, okay. I mean, that sounds like a good viable option. The one horse that I wasn't confident with was the 3, CR Destiny. Obviously, they've tried the dirt with this filly in the past couple of starts. No matter what surface or distance, it just seems like she has no follow-through.
Yeah, she's 0 for 14. She's not going to be a big price. I've got her 3rd. You've got her 2nd. Horses like this are going to beat me. I understand, when you want to spread, you're going to use them. If this was the late pick 5, I'd be playing much differently and trying to cover as much ground as you can. You want Tis Our Destiny, but why would you want that horse as your horse on top?
I threw in the 7, Love Flute, and you and I have both talked about this angle plenty of times, about 5 furlong turf sprinter stretching out to 2 turns for the first time, and it usually doesn't work to our advantage. However, she's getting a little bit of a class relief. She's not very fast at those turf sprints, so maybe 2 turns will help her. She is coming out of a pretty decent race for the level 2 starts back. But
she's also getting a significant rider change to Luis Saez.
Yeah. And we'll move on to the 4th race, a nice allowance optional claiming event, 6 furlongs on the main track. And while we have the likes of the 1 Trouble Kid coming out of the Rapid Transit last out, and we also have Blofeld coming off a significant layoff last seen in the Dwyer.
Yeah, we're going to take a look at the last win by Blofeld, and it's kind of why I wanted to show it. This is going back to November of 2014 at Aqueduct, and this was a tremendous performance. He beats a horse like El Kabir, who ran well going forward. The horse who's in 3rd first down cost me about $1,000 in his subsequent starts, where he was never able to win again. He should have won at Saratoga. He got a bad ride that day. I'm not bitter about it. I'm a little bitter about it.
Sounds like you might be a little bitter.
I'm a lot bitter about a lot of things, Gabby. Blofeld looked really good here. Todd stopped on him. He didn't run him in the Remsen for whatever reasons. And he came back last year. And, okay, he couldn't beat Cinco Charlie, Gabby, off the layoff. Cinco Charlie's pretty good. Couldn't even 2nd in that race. And they've talked that he wants more distance, and Todd even said, I think to Mike Welsh, that he thought 6 might be kind of short. So what was his excuse in the Dwyer? I'm beginning to think he was a precocious 2-year-old that didn't go anywhere, and we've seen it at this meet. These horses for Todd, these returnees like that, they're underachieving.
They're sink or swim. I will say that. We've had a couple of ones that have come back and won. Have they won impressively? Maybe not.
Well, the lucky horse. What's the one who was placed first in the Fountain of Youth last year? No, maybe I'm getting his name wrong. It's a knockout. I'm sorry. It's a knockout. He was very good.
He was very impressive,
good, yeah.
yes. He was very impressive. But these kind of horses that were kind of on the decline late last season, they've come back to not really fire. So I agree with you. You and I were speaking about this last week, actually, when entries came out. What do you make of this horse? He was obviously a very precocious 2-year-old. And did he just kind of grow and find better horses who were developing at a faster rate?
I think that he just didn't develop at all. And why am I supposed to assume he's going to do as a 4-year-old? The other thing, we'll take a look at Trouble Kid's last race in the Rapid Transit. I mean, he lost this race because Stalogandu's a good horse, and he ran very, very well in here, and it was a sloppy track. Trouble Kid, unless he stumbles out of the gate or doesn't come out of the gate, he's going to be in a position to wire this field. I just think he's too good for these horses, Gabby. And keep in mind, this race was 7 furlongs.
He has speed. He has the rail. he has recency in form, which
he's
is
good.
And he's very good. He was beaten by a better horse last time out in Stall Walking Dude. And I know going into the race as well, there are a lot of question marks about distance. Can this horse get past 3/4 or even past that? I was a believer at 7 furlongs. Honestly, I thought he still ran his
He ran
race.
well, I agree.
That obviously isn't relevant to this race, but on the cutback off of a freshing, he should be raring ready to go.
He's supposed to be the favorite horse to beat, and he probably will be. If I was going to use another, I'd use Todd's horse, Anchor Down, over Blofeld. But Passion for Action, a horse that you have third and I have second. This is a horse, if he transfers his his synthetic form to dirt, he's a good horse. He's an improving 4-year-old, and it'll be interesting to see what he does, because you never know what they'll do. But if he does, this is a horse that could maybe be a stakes quality horse sprinting.
And we've seen that so far over the course of the past couple of weeks with these horses coming from Woodbine. This is another angle that's sink or swim, but those who like the dirt just kick clear. And I like the fact that this horse has been training at Gulfstream for the past couple of months, at least since December, and he's coming in fresh. And as you said, his races on synthetic and turf are very, very good and would be competitive against Treble Kid.
Right. He's the kind of horse that there's a chance that this is the day you really want to be on him, because he's going to pay $13 in a smaller field. Not that this is a good field. This is a stakes quality field, but he might turn out to be a stakes quality dirt horse. We'll see.
Did you use him in the pick 5?
I did. I used the 1, 5, and 6. I want to bet against Blofeld. That's my position here, right or wrong.
Okay, race 5 on the card, an open $20,000 claiming event, 1-turn mile on the main track, and I believe, you land on the 8, Fleming to the outside, but Il Fratello does come out of a troubled trip a little bit last time out. My biggest concern with this horse is now stretching back out to the 1-turn mile. He was third, beaten significantly behind kind of the 2 top finishers in their Golden Ryan strong composition. I'm not going to lie, I had a tricky time with this race because I thought they're all coming out of similar races.
I agree. I had a lot of trouble with this race. I agree. I didn't know what to make of El Fratello. I was worried that a mile was just too far for him, and that's why I've got him in the mix. I've got him second, but that concerns me. Hail Cephas, who you've got third, we both got third actually here. We'll take a look at him winning last time, and to me, he is just a classic example of a last time was the time, because you got $20 against Flowers for Lisa, who came back and lost at 1-5. Now that's not, I don't know who made that horse 1-5, but this is not a particularly good horse. And this is the day you're supposed to cash, but I gotta say, he still ran well enough that he has to be a contender in this race.
He does, because you look at his last races too, and he was getting a significant class relief. When he debuted in August against Maiden Special Weight Company, it wasn't that bad. They finally got realistic with this horse. They dropped him in for the Maiden 12,000 tag. It wasn't a strong field whatsoever, but again, you're handicapping this race almost by process of elimination, and I was left on him because I thought it was a good race.
Yeah, I mean, one of the reasons that I liked Hail Cephas last night was on a bit of a guess, in the sense that there's nobody else to take. I'm not a Flowers for Lisa fan, so I was left with that horse, and it happened to work out. It's going to work out sometimes. Most of the time it doesn't. And I feel a little bit like Fleming is a similar type pick in this race. The one dirt race this horse ran, I mean, you look at the speed figures, it falls in line with the turf races. I watched the race. Horse breaks from post 10, was a half slow out of the gate, 4 wide or so in the first turn, 3 wide in the second turn. What possible chance did this horse have in that race? And now it's a good outside post going a mile around 1 turn against a field of horses that aren't very good. Why not?
Yeah, why not? He just, for me, he didn't do much running in that main track, so I had to go against it. I picked him 4th in there. I mean, he's definitely a horse that figures. That's races 1 through 5, though, the early pick 5 as well. And with that, we will go to commercial break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about the 20-cent Rainbow Pick 6. Once again, we have a nice carryover over $174,000 right after this. Welcome back to Gulfstream today, taking a look at the 20-cent Rainbow Pick 6. Once again, we do have a carryover over $174,000 today, and I did construct a ticket, $72 for that ticket. We're going to take a look at that ticket here as well, using 3 horses to kick us off in races 6 and 7, spreading in race 8, keying off of the 4, Great Glory in race 9, using 2 horses in race 10. I like Double Bolt, but I'm not fully convinced, so going to back myself up with another horse and using 4 horses in the final leg of the sequence as well. And this isn't by any means a obvious single. It's not going to be like a 1-9 shot, but I like this horse most throughout the sequence.
The one in the 9th race. See,
Yes.
I think most people will single double bolt and they'll go too deep, especially in the pick 5 in the 9th race with the 4 and 5, because the 4 and 5 feel like the right 2 in that race. In fact, I think you've singled a horse who's second choice. We'll get to that race. We both did, and those are the race 5 picks are actually still up on the screen. We both like the 1. I know I like him on top. Maybe he's just found the right spot dropping down, Gabby. We've got a stat, I think, on this horse.
Yes, we do. Mike Maker. We'll throw up that stat here with maiden special weight 2 maiden claimers on the dirt in the past couple of years.
Sprints.
It's
interesting. I don't know if you looked the whole number up. He's actually 3 for 27 in routes, but 7 for 26 in sprints. So it's something where he's been successful making this drop in sprints. I don't know if it's been random or not, but he's gotten it done with a good ROI.
Well, this is a horse as well that faced a Pinstripe, I believe, was a first-time starter for Todd Pletcher last time out in that restricted maiden special weight, now getting a tremendous class relief.
He ran at Ocala yesterday. I saw he was entered. Pinstripe. I don't know how he did.
And this horse, I thought, was a little bit forwardly placed. I almost wonder if they're going to try to send from the rail once again today.
What choice do they have? That's kind of the problem. You'd almost wish you didn't have to make that decision. They may have to. We both have a first-time starter second.
The 3 Put It Back Jack will show another statistic for the George Navarro barn over the past couple of years, of 5 years, with dirt sprinters at the maiden claiming levels with first-time starters, 22% and still a positive ROI, but even more so finishing 50% in the money. So I think this might be a sneaky horse that you don't want to leave off your tickets.
No, I agree. I saw that stat as well, and I like Put It Back. So I was always a fan of that horse for the Chief, and horse that won a graded stake with Noel Winter.
And I would say, especially with these first-time starters out of the Navarro barn, we've seen that you have to pay attention to the odds as well, because when they're really oddly bet, you have to use them in the pick 6. We
saw the off the turf race where they had that horse win here that took a ton of money. The 6 opening remark will take some money in here. I'm not using a horse like that. I know you've put him in third just to highlight him a little bit and remind us to talk about him in a way. It's a horse that just failed badly. If Todd's running him in a turf sprint in their debut, they're probably one of the weaker horses in his barn.
I agree. We'll move on to the 7th race on the card, a maiden $25,000 event, a mile and a 16th out on the turf course. And taking a look at the late pick 5, once again, we do have a carryover over $88,000. I expect we're going to get a lot of attention on that wager today.
Yeah, there's going to be, I would guess there will be over $500,000 in the pool quite easily. It could easily be over $750,000. And we'll put my ticket up. And keep in mind, I talk about this in the show. We did a little bit of a chat about this on Twitter last night. I'm not looking to play one $48 ticket in this thing. I'm looking to play multiple tickets. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again. You should read Steve Crisp's book on exotic betting, talking about how to play multiple tickets. You can use Ticket Maker on Formulator, which I think is an absolutely essential thing for players to use that want to play multi-races. Think of this as a guide. You know, if you're putting $24 in the pick 5 and that's your budget, that's fine. But, you know, this is a real thing. We want to try to hit this thing. There's real equity in playing it today. If you're going to find a bet that you're going to put a significant portion of your bankroll in, today is the day to do it into this pick 5. There is value in this play because of the carryover. And, you know, if 48 is the most you can play, that's fine, and however you construct it. But I'm going to use multiple tickets. The 10 and 13, like you, are the 2 I'm focusing on the first 2 legs. We'll go through the sequence. I'll talk about A, B, C's, and D's, or A, B's, and C's as we talk about it. I would use horses like the 1 and 7 as backups here.
I use the 1 in the pick 6. We'll take a look at the 10, though, Keystone for Victory for trainer Mike Maker. And we thought we were on to something when this horse ran last time out. Unfortunately, it was reined off the turf. But we're going to go back once again and show that statistic for Mike Maker over the past 5 years with maiden claimers, first time on the turf. 26% and still a positive ROI. This is a move that the barn just does very well with.
And what I like about that stat is he's 10 for 39 and only 8 times was he second and third. These horses are winning, or they're not running that well. So I like that. This horse has pedigree and automatic play, and Runaway Bull just feels like off the 1 turf race. Ran against some better horses in a race that had a glacial pace, had no chance trying to close from well back in there.
And the only negative, the reason why I use Little Fool, I really do like the 10 and 13 in here, but this horse draws a good post, whereas the other 2 draw kind of a tricky post from the outside. It is a mile and a 16th. You have more of a run into the first turn, but I want to back myself up in the pick 6.
listen, I'll be having other horses as C's in the pick 5, and it's Carlo Vaccarezzo. He won with 2 long shots on Sunday's card. Don't let him beat you in one of these sequences with a bomb and say, oh, that's the guy that won with those 2 big prices on Sunday. I should have thrown him in. You have him somewhere as a backup.
Exactly. The barn's heating up now. We'll get to the 8th race, the maiden $50,000 event, a mile and a 16th on the turf course. And I thought this was a tricky race that I think you and I both agree with. You have to kind of cover yourself with several horses.
Yeah, I agree. I don't like your horse Axtell, who I don't think is going to get better with distance. I know that Mark's been going very well at the barn, but to overcome that post and have to get this distance, I just thought there were too many other horses in here.
Well, I also kind of handicapped it, the fact that he does have speed from that outside post. So if you do have that outside post, at least you like, it's a feather in the cap that you have speed. And also, Julian Leparoux does very well with these types of horses on the turf that have speed, really reserving some early energy and going on from there. So I kind of handicapped it on that purpose. Also, his races on the turf, even though we have other significant class droppers, I thought he was consistent against those.
Oh, his races are fast enough to win. I'm dubious distance. The scratch of the 9 helps him because he was a potential speed inside of him, and now it looks like Mogan Avenue maybe is one of the speeds inside of him. I just thought Orlando Storm, the 2, was very, very logical in this race, making considerable drop down, and I imagine he's probably in your play somewhere, though not in your top 3. I mean, this is a horse that comes out of a race we've talked about, that Giant Run Inspector Lindley race, a race dominated in the front end, and a race that features some stakes quality horses.
Yes, it's a huge class relief there for him. We also use the 7 Bibbo here for trainer Bill Mott, who did drop in class last time out, but you go back to his turf try, Annals of Time, Inspector Lindley, that was a significant maiden special weight too.
I'm looking forward to Annals of Time. I wonder if he's maybe running this weekend in one of in the turf stake this weekend for the 3-year-old colts, because he's a very, very good horse for Klarovich and Chad Brown. I don't like that Bill dropped this horse in for 50 right after that race. I know they only paid $45,000, but he ran 4th against some good horses in his debut. For Bill Mott, you could improve the second time. That I thought was a bit of a negative.
We saw him do it several times, so the past couple of months, and a couple of times so far at the meet, and they win. So that's why you have to protect yourself, I think, with these types of horses.
Oh, for sure.
Now, the 1, Deficit Reduction. What do you do with this horse? Because very good connections. Chad Brown, Javier Castellano dropping in class, but he really did no running in debut.
If I'm friendly with the people that own horses, am I allowed to call them by derogatory names, or do I have to be nice about all the horses? I don't. I mean, what would I do? I use my 5th pick. He would be a C. I'm not going to let this horse beat me in the pick 5 if I'm right in every other race. So the ideas with A, B's, and C's is, if your C's, if 1 C wins, if you're very right in the other legs with your A's, then you'll collect the pick 5. And I wouldn't want Deficit Reduction to beat me, a Chad Brown Klarovich horse, but I just don't know if it's any good. I think Country Money, the 6, is a dangerous horse for Nick Zito. Ran against better horses last time with a wide trip after breaking slowly and didn't run that badly.
And even the 10 Regal Kitten, I mean, you could make cases for multiple horses here, and that's why I'm saying that you have to make a decision on your singles, or even the races where you want to go 2 deep or 3 deep, because this is the leg that you have to spread yourself out.
Right. My play would be the 7 and 2 would be A's, the 6 and 10 would be B's, and the 1 would be a C, and I would have other C's if I could spend more money.
Okay, we'll move on to the 9th race, a maiden special weight on the main track at 6 furlongs. And this is where my single comes into play. And I don't, if I were to use one more horse, it probably would be the 5 Magnifier. We'll go back and take a look at this horse's debut performance there at Parks on September the 7th. And I'll let you talk through this.
I'm just going to show this race. This is a good horse. The horse that beats him in this race, he came back as a New York bred that won a short price in New York and ran a good race that consistently runs figures in this 85 range, which legitimizes the number. I just think he's the fastest horse coming into the race off his last race. I'm wondering why you think the 4 is a much more likely winner. I'm using both of them, but I think this is the more likely one. I think it's very, very close between these 2 horses.
It is close, and I always proceed with caution when I see a horse run a very, very good race in debut at Parks, because I'm familiar with them, especially in the Mid-Atlantic, and sometimes they don't always transfer their form because it's a very different type of surface. So if I'm going to take a stand against a horse, I'll take a stand against this horse. He'll probably beat me, but even looking at the winner of that last race, I agree with you. His Beyer speed figures were right in the same ballpark as Daddy Thief, as he won on in debut in that performance.
That was
However,
his second start, I think.
his second start. But even if you look at the horses who finished behind him, there were no next out winners unless they dropped in class to the maiden claiming level. So I'm just wondering, beyond that, how strong was that maiden special?
You know, keep in mind, it was run during a time period where the purses at Parks were astronomical. So guys were running some good horses in those spots. Was Grey Glory second by default last time? Are you so sure he's going to take another step forward off that race? Listen, they're the two horses. I'm not against him. I just thought the 5 was a more likely winner. We're splitting hairs a little bit.
I just thought Deep Sea got an absolutely dream trip. He was stalking from off the pace, whereas Grey Glory put in most of the dirty work down on the inside, dueling the majority of the way. And not only that, he was coming off a February layoff. So if anything, I thought he got a lot of fitness out of that race, and I expect him to move forward. Now, will he move forward that significantly is the biggest question.
Well, I don't know how much he has to move forward. I'm wondering if he'll come back and run better. Listen, I'm going to use both of them. I wouldn't even, you know, we're having a debate about it. It's almost a senseless debate. You've got Banker's Mark in there. For what it's worth, and I think Josie Carroll's just a terrific trainer. She is only 1 for 14 with first-time starters in dirt sprints, for what it's worth, a 58-cent ROI.
I saw this, and this wouldn't be a horse that I'm using in the pick 6, but I think if you get a decent of a price on this horse, maybe throw in. She does, even though she is only 1 for 14, she's about 45% or 43% with horses finishing in the money. So they do run, they just don't win.
This is not an easy maiden field.
No, it's not. I will agree with that. We'll move on to the 10th race, the first half of the late daily double on this 11th race program. First level allowance at 6 furlongs, and the 4 double bolt coming off a multiple length victory last time out.
All right, we'll take a look at her winning last time at Gulfstream Park. And, you know, this is one of these funny races, Gabby. I don't know how you felt about it. I really didn't want to pick this horse. And we're going to show you a stat after we show you the replay that didn't make me feel super confident. Ultimately, I did. I just think this horse might be the speed of speed, faster than Tar and Feather. I don't know where that name came from. And might just be able to beat this field. But
Precious Feather.
I think that this is a tougher field than a lot of people might think.
I proceeded with caution with this horse as well, and there's nothing to discount her last performance. You know, I thought it was good. It was impressive, all considering the layoff. Here's a stat, though. With horses who broke their maiden in the last start, dirt sprinting in the past 5 years, only 3 for 31, and that's a pretty significant sample size. So you're getting a lot of horses and a negative ROI.
Yeah, I agree, and that's why I'm showing it, or we're showing it, because I'm sure you saw the same stat I did, and it just makes me a little bit nervous that I think what those stats kind of say is they often don't come back and run as well as they did in breaking their maiden. Now, she's had some time, and she should be fine in here. You've got Racing second. I've got Racing in the mix. I was wondering if Racing kind of just picked up the pieces towards the end, but she did run okay in her dirt debut.
We'll find out. I think today is her biggest test, but last time out I thought it was good. She was closing off the pace behind pretty sharp opening quarter half fractions. It was actually a good final time. Scuba Sue went out there and went gate to wire. I mean, there was no catching that filly, so I thought that all considering, she picked up the pieces behind a horse that was not going to lose.
Yeah, I wish she had been 4 wide doing it when she came up the rail, which was good. Diamond Earring interests me a little bit in here. Her race 2 back, Kirov was okay. She was a Chad Brown horse. It was first time for Chad that day. She came back and she won at Belmont in a subsequent start with a good trip, but beat a decent enough field. The favorite in that race was actually the horse who was the runner-up in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, a complete no-show for Al Stahl. I didn't love her last race. On the other hand, you know, maybe she's coming off a little bit of a layoff. Maybe she needed that race. I thought she was a little interesting, and I decided to use her as my backup. I mean, if I'm playing this pick 5, you're going to spend a lot of your money through the 4, but you're going to want to have some backups.
She might beat me today. I liked her last time. I went in, you know, I looked at her past races. I thought she ran very well in debut back in April of last year to beat Alpine Sky and Tiger Moth. And then she put in okay races against first level allowance. I liked her last time. I was disappointed by her last performance, so that's why I'm kind of jumping off.
I almost wanted to pick her, but I just kept looking at it and thinking, I just don't know if she's good enough. And I like her as sort of a fringe player in here. But I think, you know, you're playing the pick 5 or the pick 6. You're going to focus in on the 4 because your money is better off spreading in other races like the second race in the sequence that we talked about.
and even the finale, which we'll get to just now, as 16,000 non-winners, a 2 lifetime condition, a mile and a 16th on the turf, scratched the 4 as of now. And we have the 2 responsive who tried the dirt last time out off of a significant class drop. You go back, tried the turf at Tampa. I actually threw this horse completely out, primarily because it is one of the horses that's taken a big class drop and probably will be bet because of strong connections. But that was just not a good race whatsoever.
They offered her for 12.5 last time and nobody bit. I mean, it's almost like they said, would somebody please take this horse off our hands last time, and nobody wanted this horse. So yeah, she's taking a drop on her turf races, but she's not doing it overall. It's funny, you know, you mentioned her and I look at her and I think, wait a second, shouldn't I have had this horse somewhere in my play? And I guess she would be a C somewhere. I think you want to have her as a C. You'd hate to get through and be smart in all the legs and lose to Responsive and say, I blew this pick 5 for, you know, whatever, and they didn't use her, but I don't want her.
The 6 Wonderful Star is the horse that you and I both agree on. And last time out, it almost looked like the pace held together relatively well. The second, I think the pace setter wound up finishing 3rd. It was a little, the pace, I don't know what to do with that race because it wasn't like she had a strong closing kick. Does she really have to improve to win this race, though?
That's the thing. You know, I know she's an 0 for 6 to 1 for 16 horse, but once again, we've talked about this. She's 0 for 3 on the turf with a 2nd and 3rd. Her last effort was not as good as her Remington efforts, which I don't like. But like you say, I think her last race might be good enough to win this race, and I'm going to make her my 1 main A in this race and use other horses. I mean, Reagan's Odyssey, I guess, is okay, but I don't really want her off of her maiden win. How about off a maiden win on the turf? I didn't put this stat up, but Marcus Vitale is 1 for 18 with a 21-cent ROI and only 5 of them hitting the board.
That's a very good stat. You also threw in the 5, Mademoiselle Belle. I couldn't make a case for her. I mean, she was a long-time maiden. She finally got in the winner's circle, and now coming in fresh, I could see it, I guess. I don't know.
I get, you know, you've got Fearless Princess second. I mean, listen, I'm not knocking you. This is the kind of race it is. She's probably a C for me as well.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's hard to knock any horse in this race when you have horses like Fearless Princess second. And Mademoiselle Belle's a little bit better than her, but not that much better, which is why we like the 6, because the field quality, it's not, you're not making some ringing endorsement for the horse you like. It's just relative to the other horses.
Well, even the 8, Holy Scat, I thought I could make a little bit more of a case for. Corey Lannery, I thought, rode this horse very well last time out. And this was a filly that I thought just kind of needed a class relief. She met the right class last time out. She ran well on a good course as well. I just don't know if she's going to get the similar setup as she did last time, but at least this isn't that tough of a field to face winners for the first time.
I agree with every word that you just said. I mean, this is a tough race to close out these sequences because the 6 might get it done. Maybe we're just right with the 6, but you could throw them up in the air, and a lot of them are going to land first.
Races 8 and 11 are the 2 races in the pick 5 and the pick 6 sequence that you want to use horses in and cover yourself because they're trickier.
Right. The naive approach to this pick 5 would be somebody goes, well, I mean, Grey Glory or Magnifier are going to win the 9th, and then Double Bolt's going to pay $340 in the 10th. How are you going to make any money? It doesn't matter. Those short-priced winners are your friends in multi-race sequences. Forget about that nonsense, because do you really want 5 utterly impossible sequences? Right or wrong, if you can limp through the 9th and 10th races by going 2 by 1 or even 2 by 2, it gives you so much room to spread in the other ones. You get one $30 horse in there, and it's certainly far from impossible, and you'll do well. You get 2 of them in there, and you'll make a big score.
Picking favorites isn't bad in multi-race sequences.
Great.
They're key, and you just have to find out which ones are the dubious, to use your word, favorites, and the not so dubious favorites. So it's a very interesting sequence. Once again, we do have carryovers in the late pick 5, over $88,000 in that carryover, and the pick 6 over $174,000. They start in races 6 and 7. I'm finished talking. I think you're finished talking as well. Larry Colmus is ready to talk, so we're going to take a quick break, and Larry Colmus will be up with scratches and changes, but we'll be back through races 1 through 11. Best of luck on today's card.